Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Mayorga, and I am back to continue the little videos that I'm doing about birth order. And we had a little bit of a trying week this past week with what happened. I'm not going to get into it or anything like that, but it made me stop for a while and just do some reflective work on myself. And I'm talking about the Charlie Kirk situation. But again, I'm not going to be using YouTube to discuss my personal thoughts and ideas about that. But I thought I'd take a little break and then come back. And my first little video about birth order was the middle child, and I talked about that. Excuse me for a moment, I'm going to turn my light on here. And then I said that I would go back and start talking about or discussing, giving my opinion, giving some information about firstborns. And so, what I'm going to talk about today is some of the characteristics of being a firstborn. I'm sure many of you in my audience probably already know a lot of this, but I find it very, very interesting because no matter how much we know about it, it seems to really affect family dynamics. And I'm a person that discusses the system dynamics, meaning that the family dynamics is it's very systemic. So, however one person acts, they're invisibly tied to the rest of the family, and it shifts people around. So, anyway, there are 7 characteristics that I'm going to discuss that's got to do with a firstborn. And the very first one is leadership qualities. And I have a little difficulty with this. Because I want to preface this by saying that all these characteristics can be influenced in a positive or a negative way based on your family environment. And so when we talk about a firstborn that has leadership qualities, what kind of leadership qualities develop based on the environment that they live in? Are they leadership qualities within the family structure, meaning that they're the oldest and therefore they take care of the younger children, and so they mentor or they lead the younger children because that's part of their responsibility? Or is it something that they can strive for in when they develop a career? And as I was looking at these characteristics and decided to talk about them, it made me think about your secondborn. Because what I've seen is your firstborn has some of these characteristics, and there's some of them are stronger in the secondborn. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about that too. And if they have leadership qualities, where are they using their leadership qualities? Is it only at home? Is it at work? Is it in their relationships? Is it in their friendships? Uh, but here's another thing that they talk about for firstborns. They have leadership qualities, but they're very good at taking direction. How does that work? Direction from somebody higher than them, maybe a parent, maybe a boss, but then they can take that direction and use it in their leadership skills. And something too that also is part of the characteristics for a firstborn is, although they may have leadership qualities, they can be very cautious about utilizing their leadership qualities, where and when. Another characteristic is they may be very well grounded, or not grounded at all, or not be good at leadership. Again, something that we have to think about is what is the environment that they're in? Are they being encouraged to take those leadership qualities, or are they being used in their home environment? Because remember, this happens as we're growing up. We're talking about birth order as you're growing up. Everybody falls into a birth order, and so you have you're being, and I put this in quotation marks, manipulated by the parental figures. And I'm not bashing parental figures. I'm just talking about facts that will encourage you to develop those skills or not develop those skills. You may have good leadership skills. You might be 10, 12, 13, and you come to the parent, and the parent might shut you down. And so you might end up withdrawing those leadership skills because you're not being encouraged. So then you grow up and you have a career and you have these innate leadership skills that really haven't been developed. So you end up being very frustrated in your job because you're not engaging in the leadership qualities. You may be the one that they come to and give you direction because they know you're going to do it, but those are not leadership skills. So that's the first one that I want you to think about. The second is high expectations. As a firstborn, high expectations, when delivered appropriately, can make that person just shoot all the way up to the top. And it's high expectations from others and high expectation from self. So that can lead into perfectionism. A parental figure has high expectations, and I can talk about a lot of examples. But let's say high expectations for you you're a firstborn and you're in charge of the family. You're in charge of the siblings, and something happens to one of the siblings. They get hurt, they didn't do their homework, they did something or other. And so these high expectations then turn into negativity because you were responsible, and that's another characteristic that we can add with the high expectations. High expectations with a lot of responsibility. And if it doesn't work out the way that your parental figure or others expected you to do, then you can be very hard on yourself because high expectations permeate who you are based on what you're being told that you should be. So lots of high expectations, and the negativity of that is that having high expectations and you don't meet those because you're always raising the bar. People that are engaged in high expectations, once they meet that, they raise the bar and they raise the bar and they raise the bar, and it gets very, very difficult. And so then you have those people that plummet down into depression or a lot of anxiety. See it a lot if you're in the school setting. Maybe some of you are school teachers or school counselors, or you have children that are in high school, and you've got your children or your adolescents or your teenagers very driven, and then they plummet down because they didn't get the award that they expected, or that GPA, they miss it by half a fraction or something like that. These are all examples, and I think all of us in reality can remember how it was for us, remember seeing others and experiencing some of this. So I'm just talking about these characteristics from the perspective of how are you doing now as an adult. If you're firstborn as an adult, I'm going to talk about that. Okay. The next characteristic is the nurturing behavior. I'm old enough to have seen many families, talked to many families, where the oldest is trying to engage in nurturing behavior, but is maybe seen as a bully by the other siblings, or someone that's always in their business because they're telling them what to do. And it may come from the perspective of nurturing. I'll tell you about a situation one time that I was talking to somebody, and I was having a conversation. I knew about the family dynamics, and she was a firstborn, and she was very upset because all the adult siblings, well, they're adults. They pretty much have their own way of doing things, their own opinions. They're living their own lives. Don't need another adult sibling, firstborn, come and tell them what they should do. And this was very distraught for her. She was very distraught, very disturbing for her. So she would cry a lot because it was coming from a good place, but the way it was presented was creating a lot of problems in the family dynamics and in the relationship that the oldest sibling had with the rest of the siblings. So this nurturing behavior and caring for others, if not developed appropriately, will move into telling people what to do from that whole perspective of, I care about you, so I think I know better I think I know what's best for you, and so I'm doing it because I care for you. But if not delivered appropriately, it will create a lot of strife in the sibling relationships. I've seen this many, many, many times. You've probably seen it too. If you're not a firstborn, you may be experiencing it. If you are a firstborn, you may be saying, all I want to do is just help. They're going down the wrong path. I know better. But it comes from the fact that they've been in that position for so long that they don't know how to give it up. That's part of their identity. And as much as they try to give it up, they may find themselves just falling right back into it. So that's another characteristic that can be a positive or a negative depending on how it was developed during their growing up years. Okay. The next one is the intellectual achievement, and that could be across the board in many things. Intellectual achievement, they can. I know somebody that's very, very knowledgeable about biblical information. I know some that are very, very knowledgeable about history. Um, they may not go on to school and get a degree in it, but they're knowledgeable, and they have this intellectual achievement in that area, and it's part of that perfectionism. It's part of that leadership. It's part of that wanting to show that they know what they're doing. That level of responsibility. This also works for them personally. You can be a firstborn, but you can be also a person that is considered an only child. It's very closely related to a firstborn. And so they educate themselves about everything. Their main career may be this, but they're constantly educating themselves about everything. And when somebody, one thing about firstborns is you can't really go and tell them anything about what they're doing because they're firstborn, and they have that responsibility that they need to know more than others that are under them, that are maybe lower, younger than them. So that's part of that too. Another characteristic is independence. They display a lot of independence, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's good independence. What it does mean is that sometimes they are unable to ask for support, and therefore they find themselves somewhat isolated, and they have a lot of shoulds in their lives. I should be able to handle this. I should be able to be strong for everybody else. I cannot fall apart. I'm the oldest. I'm the responsible person. Everybody's looking at me. I have to demonstrate that I can handle this. So it makes for a high level of stress for that person that is the firstborn, because the independence hasn't been, again, developed appropriately. They take it on with a lot of shoulds, and therefore they don't talk a lot, they don't share a lot, they don't trust a lot, and so this makes, again, it makes it very difficult to develop sibling relationships. So if you have a firstborn who has these characteristics and they were all developed in a manner that is not the most positive for the firstborn, things may be going on that the other siblings will not be aware of, and the firstborn will not share. I had someone one time share to me who was the firstborn that they had a very difficult time trusting the siblings, and so that created walls in the relationships. And although this firstborn wanted to demonstrate and was constantly trying to demonstrate caring, it came out as a parental figure. Sometimes the nurturing becomes parental, which creates, again, problems in the sibling relationships. Okay? They have a very strong personality. I'm going to tell you what to do. Again, because this is a responsibility that was given to them from a very early age. They don't know how to let go of it. Nobody's ever told them to let go of it. They've never even said, you know what, I don't want to be firstborn anymore. I don't want to be the parental figure anymore. I don't want to be responsible for you anymore. And nobody may be asking them to be responsible for myself. Let's say, for example, my firstborn sibling. And I never say to you, hey, take it easy. Take a break. You're not my parent. You're not my mom. You're not my father, whatever. We don't tend to say that. Everybody has a birth order. Everybody has a role, and everybody falls into that role, especially when the siblings all come together in a gathering. I challenge you to see that Think about Christmas. Think about Thanksgiving. Think about a birthday party. Think about a wedding. Think about this. All these, when this gathering occurs, the roles, the birth orders will appear automatically. And normally it's because nobody ever has talked about it, doesn't recognize it, does not realize that they don't have to stay in that role because of their birth order. And again, it's very difficult to give it up because they've done it for so long. It's become like innate in them, even though they may not want it anymore. Okay. And then there's a high level of competitiveness, which you see if there's a second born. Your firstborn, second-born, middle child, then the fourth and fifth. Okay, and then you'll see that with the fourth and fifth, a lot of competitiveness too. So you have the firstborn who has this leadership qualities, perfectionism, but the competitiveness really comes out when you have a second-born. Okay, and it really comes out if it's a male female. There's a lot of competitiveness. I know of a situation where the second-born was a male, and the male believed that he needed to have been the firstborn. So therefore he wanted to engage as a firstborn. So there was constant sibling conflict between the firstborn and the secondborn. And it became very difficult. They became estranged. It just created a lot of problems. Okay? So, and the final characteristic is a firstborn tends to gravitate toward other firstborns because they have a lot of things in common. I happen to know of somebody that was very best friends. Her very best friend was firstborn, and they really had a lot in common, and they really understood what they each were going through and being that responsible for the family, telling everybody what to do. Putting themselves in a position of, and I put this in quotation marks, authority. And you may see somebody that is 30, 40, 50 still in that firstborn role, and the rest of the siblings married, children, have jobs, being responsible, and when the family gets together, everything goes right back to what it was when they were growing up. So I just wanted to share that with you. This video had to be a little bit longer because I needed to talk about all these characteristics. But I want to challenge you. Where do you fall in your birth order? And can you, if you're a firstborn, can you connect with these characteristics? And have they been troubling? Have you seen them still be in your life and the difficulty of maybe letting them go? Or have you done the work to say no? I may be the firstborn, but I don't have to be responsible for my other siblings that are already in their 20, 30, 40 years old. Have you learned to dialogue as opposed to telling people what to do? All coming from a good place. Right? It's not about bashing firstborns. All right? I know of many people, including my sister, who's a firstborn, and there's a lot of love in her heart for the family and for the siblings. But it sometimes can be a little difficult for the firstborn because it's all coming from a place of love and trying to understand. And again, one thing I want to reiterate over and over again is that birth order always comes with the role that was given to you as you were growing up. And so that's these things go together, birth order and the roles. So after I finish doing the birth order, I may do some videos on the roles that we play because of our birth order, I should say. All right. May you have a good Sunday. Thank you.